All right, next it's my pleasure to introduce somebody I've become friends with recently, John McKerley. John is a PhD expert on labor and was working as compiling oral histories of labor, the labor movement in Iowa. So John's going to speak to us on labor and work shortages in unions. Come on up, John.
Got it. All right. Thank you so much. So again, hi, my name is John McKerley. I've lived here since 2010, I think. And during that time, I worked at something called the University of Iowa Labor Center, which is the only institution in the state that's focused on studying and connecting with the problems of working Iowans, union members in particular. Sorry, I'm trying to figure this out a little bit. So, unfortunately, as our governor quite rightly said at one point, she did Doge before Doge. So I'm also one of those experts who got kicked out of a job but before that movement went to the White House, and again at a real cost, in the sense that there was one institution that was focused on the interests of working people, which I think we can all realize are of significant import right now. And that institution is a shadow of what it used to be. But the main reason I'm here is to talk to you not so much about that, as to talk to you about how the labor movement relates to this larger story. And I don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to distill it to one basic idea, which is that inherent in the notion of the labor movement is that democracy doesn't live in voting booths, right? I think many of us might look back fondly on an idea that we could go once or twice a year and elect people who we were confident would represent our interests fairly and in regard to the best information. If that ever existed, it doesn't exist now, obviously. But the lesson of the labor movement for all of us, whether you have been a member or not, and of course today with the labor movement being below 10% of those people who have jobs, most of us probably haven't. But the genius of the labor movement, and one of the reasons that the Trump administration and its allies are damned and determined to destroy it, is that it teaches that democracy can and should live in every aspect of our lives, right? Doesn't live in the voting booth. It can live at work, right? And by extension, it can live in the family, right? It can and should live everywhere. But it can only live everywhere. Again, this is another lesson of the labor movement, if we work at it every day, right? We can't offload. Again, if there was ever a time where we could offload the responsibilities of democracy, we cannot do that now. Every day, if we are not doing things like this, we need to be talking to our neighbors, right? Just like in a unionized workplace, we are talking to our fellow workers about what their problems are. What are the problems of your neighbors? Do you know them? If you don't, find out, right? And once you know, take another lesson from the labor movement. Get together, right? Collective action. Whether it's in a forum like this, whether it's in your home, whether it's in your workplace, we have to be building every moment of the day right now, little groups, whether we call them unions, whether we call them associations, whether we call them friends. We need every one of those groups together, because the best way to organize is not individual to individual. It is organized group to organized group, right? The bad guys know this, and they're trying to make it harder for us to form those groups, and they're trying to make it harder for us to find commonalities between us and to organize successfully around those commonalities in order to oppose the bad things they want to do, right? Which means we have to, again, every day and in every way, not let them win. And I'm just going to quickly close on a little biographical note, just to kind of give you a sense for why I think what I think. So I don't sound like it very much anymore, but I'm from Alabama. My parents were they were from Birmingham. And they were very much on not the side of the civil rights movement. They were on the opposite side. I grew up in a household that preached the opposite of the civil rights movement. I know when I look at Trump, when I look at what the Republican Party has become, I see what my parents and my grandparents grew up in, right? Whether they are organizing explicitly around around a white supremacy that is focused on African Americans or not, the same seed of authoritarianism that animated Jim Crow animates them. That is what we're up against, right? And so again, just like with the movement that liberated me, this is why I'm so passionate about it. As I see it, people like John Lewis destroyed that system and allowed me to live a life of freedom too, a mental freedom, outside of the confines of a despicable, evil way of looking at the world that shackled my grandparents, my parents. And we are in a moment where they are trying to put a new kind of authoritarian shackle on this entire nation. That is what we are up against. And so not only for ourselves, but for the future generations, for my kids, your kids, all the kids, everyone, our grandkids, we have to win this because the stakes could not be higher, right?